So maybe you've been doing kind of your dream thing for a while. You've had the side hustle. You were part of the Great Resignation, and you're saying to yourself, should I quit? Like, it's been a while. It's been a while since that whole Great Resignation wore off. We're solidly past the honeymoon phase when it comes to like pursuing something that you're dreaming of. And the question is, should I quit? Am I really cut out for this? Should I really do this? And I am right there with you. Like, if I'm being very honest, in the last couple weeks, probably the last month, I have felt really discouraged. I've felt like I'm running out of YouTube ideas. I don't feel that motivated to film. My analytics are much worse than they were at the start of the year. I'm a lot less inspired than I was at the start of the year. And it really sucks to feel that way because you know what it feels like to be inspired, and then you know that you're not that now. And things are not going where you wanted them to be. Maybe they're not getting there as fast as you wanted them to be. And so, after you handle that for a long enough amount of time, eventually the question of should I quit starts coming to your mind. Like, should I really write this song? Should I really keep doing this YouTube channel? Should I really keep on with this book? Or like, should I just scrap it? Like, the other stuff like wasn't so bad. And so I kind of want to talk about that. So I'm going to look at a few graphs. So I used to be a math teacher, and so I've been missing graphs a little bit lately. And so we're going to look at 3 different graphs and how kind of Google experts say trends tend to happen and why maybe you should put off the decision if you should quit or not 42 more days at the time of this recording. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. So by the end of this video, I think that you'll have a much better understanding of if you should quit, when to make that decision, what times to not make that decision. And I hope you'll feel a lot more clear and encouraged also, because I think a lot of what this is can be discouragement. So the first graph I want to show you is so fascinating. So some Google researchers were kind of looking at some of the trends of different search terms that people type in, and they kind of compared it over the graph of the year. And so they looked at terms like pain and I think depression, anxiety, and they called it the misery index. And it's basically just how people's mental health is throughout the year. And so it's no surprise that it's at its highest in July, and then it dips down to one of the lows around the beginning of November. Then it dips up to one of the highs around Christmas, around the start of the year. People have new hope with goal setting. And then it dips down again mid-March into April. And that is where we are at right now. And so what I want you to realize is that maybe because of this misery index, maybe you're not feeling the best. Just because you're discouraged does not mean that you're legitimately doing worse. Sometimes your perception is much different than reality. And I think sometimes your motivation, your emotional motivation gives up way sooner than your hustle and hard work actually will if you were to take that emotional factor out of it. And so you may have heard the acronym HALT, and it's never make decisions when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And I think when it comes to like mid-March, April, this is when, there's not a lot of holidays to look forward to. If you're in a place that has like 4 seasons, the weather is not that great. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, it's just the weather's not good. There's nothing really to look forward to when you look at like American holidays. I mean, there's just nothing to look forward to. And that can be really discouraging. And I think people might underestimate how much their environment really impacts them. If you're around a bunch of people who are discouraged, they're putting on happy faces or whatever, but if everyone collectively is just feeling a little bit worse right now than we were a few months ago, and much worse than we will be feeling when we're in July, I think that's something really to look at and to really consider that probably is affecting you, and that's probably affecting your creativity more than you think. And I was looking at another stat, and I had remembered hearing on the radio a while back that they said that the day after daylight savings time is the least motivated time of the year. So I was kind of Googling that. I'm like, is that really true? What's the information? And I found that April, it has tons of the least motivated days. So when you combine that with the fact that March is the time people are the most miserable, aside from like beginning November, and April is the time people are the least motivated, this is the time when lots of people are going to give up on their goals. It's been enough time from your New Year's resolutions that people are wanting to give up. But I would just say hold off on that decision until the end of April, because you'll be feeling a little bit better at that point and you'll have more of a solid head on your shoulders. You know what I mean? If you can just keep through this, I promise it will get better. And this kind of brings me to my second graph. And it's basically just there are ups and downs on the way up. When I look at some of the progress of my YouTube channel, there are ups and downs. At the start of the year I was up, and now look at March and we're down. But then there will be another peak, and then I'll go down, there'll be another peak, and each peak is higher than the last, and each low is higher than the last. And that's something to realize. Sometimes we don't feel like we're making that much progress, but we really are. It can be discouraging, like when I look at my YouTube analytics and I'm like, wow, I was just killing it in January. Like, what is the deal right now? So I thought it'd be kind of interesting if I looked at my YouTube analytics and I combined these two ideas. Could it be the case that my peaks are July and January and my lows are March and November? And I've only been doing this like a year and a half, so I don't have that much time frame, but all of my peaks were at those times. I had my first biggest peak in July of last year, then it kind of died off, and then I had my next biggest peak of January this year. And I think it's just not a coincidence when you're around so many people who are miserable that really affects you. And especially if you yourself are miserable, that shows up the way I show up on camera, how energized I am, how motivated I am about a certain topic. And so when I looked at my YouTube analytics, I found that it really reflected this. All my lows were when the misery index showed that we'd be low, and all my highs showed up when the misery index showed that we'd be high. So just remember that phrase, there are ups and downs on the way up. And your lows are higher than your last lows were. And just because you're at a low right now does not mean that you won't be at a peak come this July, probably. And it'll be higher than your last peak. You're growing, you're evolving, you're doing better. And so give yourself some credit that even if like analytics are down right now, they're going to be on the way up. And then finally, the third one that I want to talk about is not so much of a graph as it is more of an image. So let's say you have this goal you're pursuing. Maybe you want to be an artist, a YouTuber, you want to write a book or whatever. And so you've been working at this thing for a while. Like I've been working at this for a couple years at this point. And so it's like, the analogy is like you're climbing up a mountain and it feels like you're doing it kind of like in a spiral. You go around, you see this tree, you go up the mountain some more and you're like, if I've seen this tree before, I'm not making any progress. But what you don't realize is it's actually from a higher vantage point than last time before. Even though you may be encountering another low, even though you may be encountering the same problem that you've already encountered and you're like, shouldn't we be past this? What you don't realize is you are seeing that tree from a different vantage point. You are passing it again, but this time from a higher perspective. And you're going to keep passing it, and each time from a higher and higher perspective, because that is what growth is. And so I just kind of want to encourage you that like we're in a low point right now. This is March. It's normal. Everyone's discouraged. Everyone's analytics are down. Everyone is feeling a little less motivated than they were. It's part of the seasonal flow. There are ups and downs. And I think sometimes that seasonal flow can be discouraging, but it's actually kind of beautiful. I heard one time they talked about the 4 seasons, and so it's like a time of production, and then a time of rest, and then a time of planting new things, and then growth and harvest, kind of follows the 4 seasons. And when you think of your work in that way, think of this as a time of rest. This is not going to be the time that you output your best product, but it's a time for you to rest, to reflect, to read, to really go inward, get your new ideas for the thing that you'll produce later on. And it's okay, just make it through this time, make it through the next 42 days. We'll get through March, we'll get through April, and there'll be hope on the other side. And then once we're on the other side and you're not hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, the whole HALT acronym, then you'll be at a much more solid place to determine should you quit or not. Because, this is a big deal. Like if you are part of the Great Resignation and you quit your job for this, I think you owe it to yourself to really give it its full shot, to really be able to experience its full essence. And I think to quit when you're down would be just doing a disservice to your dream. And I think it would always leave the question in your mind, did I really want to quit? And in my experience, I've had lots of lulls. Like I've posted on YouTube for a while, and then I'll quit for a while, and then I'll post for a while, and then I'll quit for a while. And I always come back to it. And every time I wish that I would have just stuck with it. And so that's kind of, I don't know, some advice that I've kind of learned from my times quitting and coming back and quitting and coming back. And so this time, I'm just giving myself grace. I'm saying, okay, if this is a low point in the year, what's the bare minimum I can do to get through this time? And then I'm excited for another peak in July, and I'm hopeful that this is just this cyclical nature and that there are ups and downs on the way up. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked this video, take a look at the video on the screen. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.